everyone. I think it is live. That's what it says. That's what it says up there. So how are you doing? Uh, what is today? Tuesday. Boy, what happens? Hello, Brad. How are you doing? Sarah K, good to see you. Blue Bottom Bunny Farm, how are you doing? Jamma, good to see you. Well, it's another day in paradise. Hopefully that's how it's looking for you. If not, well, all right, you can make paradise. Trust me, it can be done. Claudette, how are you doing there? Good to see you. Raven Wolf, good to see you. Remember, Raven Wolf will be on Friday night. Anja, how are you doing? Good afternoon to you. Lori, Shane, Awakening Bean, Merritt, Jessica, and the list continues to go on. So, world is still here. It's still spinning around. And it just seems to me, and it's just my opinion, actually, let's change that because we know by Hermes what the definition of an opinion is. An opinion is something that resides between ignorance and knowledge. So I guess maybe it would depend on what side of the coin you're on. I don't know. Seven Serpents, how are you doing? So good to see everyone. And Shoots for Par, how you doing? Casey, Richard. Hey, folks. So I've had someone ask me before we get into today's topic, and we're going to be reading from the Kabbalion. People have said, well, I'm a little confused trying to follow you. So we're using primarily three books, the Kabbalion, the Hermetica, and Franz Barden's book, Initiation into Hermetics. So I'll try to keep that so everyone who is reading along, and actually there's a lot of you that are. So someone asked about, do I know of any angels to be invoking? Well, let me say this. Before you start invoking unseen forces, you need to make sure where you're grounded at, because they have an agenda too. I mean, if the afterlife does in fact exist, you know, I thought it was really odd. They revealed today about Stephen Hawking. He didn't believe in God. He said that there's absolutely no evidence, no scientific evidence whatsoever. And I was thinking about this, that, well, here's a man who that's all he had to do was think. Now, we all think, but this man thought with intent and purpose. I mean, if you're bound to a chair, that's about it. I mean, you're a spirit being living in something most people couldn't handle. And it gets into this topic. But the fact is, he just didn't believe it. He said that if anything exists, you know, and I guess his conclusion was, it's like out. He said, you best live life here, enjoy all there is to enjoy in this consciousness, because his contention was there was nothing that awaits. You know, I disagree with that, but who am I? You know, he was a lot smarter than I was. So, but just because someone's smart doesn't mean they're enlightened. It's just the way it is. In the Hermetica, we read, and we'll be continuing to read from there, that there are, does everyone remember what we read last week? I feel like Ferris Bueller. Ferris Bueller. Anyway, so does anyone know what we read? All right, so we read that in this temporal realm, in these magnificent, engineered creation we call bodies, that they can inhabit a spirit, all have what they call reason or mind, soul, and then there are the others. And we know to a limited degree of what these others are. I forget who it was. I think it was some guy that former FBI agent said that they were pretty well convinced that there were less than 500,000 true spirit inhabited bodies. And I'm thinking to myself, we can sometimes in our afternoon get-togethers, we can pull over 300 people in here. And I'm thinking, are we just the only ones who have a spirit? What's going on here? We know the golems, the Egyptians did the same thing. The Sumerians did the same thing, that you can actually create a body. And it can exist in this realm. It doesn't have a soul to speak of, or so they say, and they're very limited as to what they can do. I think the Hindus call them or is it the Muslims, the jinns? Hebrew, Judaism, the golems. So we know that there is magic. And sometimes I think it should be with the J and not the G. A knowledge that's out there. Now, where did I get to the beginning of this about invoking angels? You really have to know where you stand, because remember why we did yesterday. We went through that list, why you make a list. And the reason why you make a list of every freaking shortcoming you can think, and then also a list of every positive thing. Because remember, in the law of polarity, it's just a matter of degrees. So, and it's a code book. Hello, Shannon. How are you? So, good to see you. So here's the thing. Now, I've been around where demons were cast out. I question now, were we really dealing with a true entity, or were we dealing with an aspect of personality? Don't know. It's one of those things that I'm still looking into. But I do know that there is a realm of the unseen. I've had angels visit me, not only in physical form, but in dreams. One I'm very familiar with comes around, and each one of these dreams are very profound. The last one, I was living in Texas, and I was on a train, and I'm on a train now. It's odd how you see some of these things coming forward. But any case, so I do this book here, as you can see, it's rather thick. It's Gustav Davidson. Good book. If any of you are curious in buying it, it literally goes through thousands and thousands of names of angels, demons too. And I think we have to understand as well is that when we talk about demons, we got to get out of this religiosity point of view. Remember, if you can maintain your balance, even going to the other side, that good and evil is just a matter of degrees, and that if you know your weaknesses, they become your strengths. And so no spirit being can bring cause or accusation against you. You know what you can do? Now, part of your development, kind of mine, is that this is the problem when you start gaining a little bit of power. My normal tendency would, and I have done this to these spirit beings, is basically flipped them off. I have. Probably pissed a few off too along the way as I think about it. So, but when you begin to invoke them, remember, it's a two-way street here. They're going to be wanting something back from you. You know, the story's legendary about John Lennon. What happened to them in Germany? You know, he contends that they made a deal with a spirit entity. And I don't know. There's been plenty of philosophy done on the Beatle music. Still listen to it today. I mean, right now I can go through the whole Hard Day's Night album. I still remember seeing that movie with my mother at the drive-in. And, you know, the influence of that music, that vibration. And today we're going to be getting into the Kabbalah on vibration, that changed everything. It said it opened an avenue in our consciousness that had never been done before. Now, in my lifetime, I've seen a lot of never been done's before. My grandmother lived to almost to be 100. She saw a few things in her lifetime from literally when she was growing up, it was a horse and wagon. That's how she remembered her childhood, to where she saw man landing on the moon and even beyond that. So getting back to what the spirit beings demand, it's depending on who is controlling whom. So, and I know the purpose that this person said, I, wanted to invoke the angels. And listen, there, as I told everyone on Jeff and our show, Not Your Normal Sunday Morning, as I've been told, they have said to me is that many of them long for the days when mankind will invoke them again. So apparently that could imply that there is a lot that they would like to do. It seems there is the propensity for our species, particularly those who gain a certain ascendancy of power in this realm, to invoke only those who have an agenda on the negative side, wanting to keep the pendulum as much in motion as they can. But when we come into the scene and begin to alter that momentum by the presence of our energy, by transmutation, and I don't know how many of you should be practicing that every day. All of us got plenty of opportunity to practice transmutation. Every situation, and that's how things continue. Now, I do want to share some things with you. I have a rather extensive library, well over 200. A lot of these are very old. This is the language of demons and angels from Cornelius Agrippa's occult philosophy. It's one that, well, I would say that it would require, a more advanced student, a more advanced initiate, to really get into it. It's powerful. It's powerful. I mean, I have several books on spells that anything you could want. But again, there's a price. So this is a very good book. It's one that This one's marked up, even though it's a digital copy, because it has my notes in it. Anyway, there's another one. This is the old book of magic, a very interesting read, precise history of magic, its procedures, rites, and mysteries, as contained in the ancient manuscripts, embellished with engravings of the wonderful charms and talismans by Dr. L.W. de Lawrence. And this is another interesting book, no doubt. Again, interesting read is the best I can say. Here is another one, and it's actually ties into what we're going to be talking about today. And this is a book, and I put it at this one here. I love this. And it says, as we grow, mature, and get older, our life is filled with plenty of recollections, which are dear to our hearts, but sometimes absolutely unnecessary. They overload our memory, which already is so tired, leaving in it only fragments of the events of which happened a long time ago and vague faces of people who you met also a long time ago. Present outs the past bit by bit, encumbering our brain, which has been already strongly overloaded with today's important events. And our lovely childhood and youth, oh, so dear to our hearts, gradually recedes into the background, being blurred by the stream of the important today. No matter how bright a life we have lived and how brilliant our memory, nobody is able to reconstruct events which happened 40 or more years ago with total exactness. For reasons of which we are unaware, sometimes a person or a fact leaves an indelible impression and is literally imprinted in our memory forever. I've got those. I know many of you do too. This is why. And sometimes something very important disappears in the ever-flowing stream of time, and only an accidental conversation with an old acquaintance unexpectedly snatches out some exceptionally important event from the nooks of our memory. And the thought that we could have forgotten such a thing amazes us to the bottom of our heart. So we've got a lot of territory to cover. Give me a second here as I get back. Here we go. So, folks, as we progress on this, I've got the advanced material. It's there. And with the help of people like Anja, Deborah Tucker, so many more that I'm getting to know, Sue G, people, again, who have that insight, Jenny Moonstone, Heidi, I mean, in Rex, we can just go on and on. I think that there has been a coalescence. It's been taking and unfolding in the last couple of years. And we're now in the mix of this where the mixture, the elixir, is getting exactly where it needs to be. And I believe that there's going to be strong magic brought forward in all of this. I'm convinced of it. It's, I think, the only inevitable conclusion. And we see this from the regulars. Dr. Albers and I had a delightful conversation. And you can see how all of this, no matter where your belief systems are, there is a platform in which every spirit being can in fact be integrated into and still keep that uniqueness of individuality. That's why I don't believe God has a personality. I believe it's a presence, it's a force. As I said last night, I'm convinced that there is yet a knowledge. You know, if all of our records, as you can see, the whiteboards are now getting cleared, there's new stuff coming out. If we can just go by what is written, what we have access to, it only goes back about 10,000 years. Now, there's good argument that says, well, these writings are much older than that. I have no doubt. No doubt at all about that. But what I have to contend with is what we have the evidence of today. And so 10,000 years. We can't remember our beginnings. We can't remember what created us. We can't remember what it is. We can't, and as we develop, we can't even agree upon the gods. You know, today you've got, 3-4 basic religions. In 1,000 years, if we're still here, that's debatable. There will be other gods. These gods will disappear and go into oblivion. Because the reality is we're all gods. That was the thing when I used to teach in Christianity. What I could, and I knew it was down there. But when I would talk to other people, I'd walk away going, are we talking about the same God? Nah. Yeah. No, well, we got the book. But are we talking about the same God? Oh, we got the book. That's a problem. We all got the book. It paints a very unique picture on each one of us. Therefore, I contend there can never be a single God. Whether monotheism is your bag or polytheism, have your choice. It's the same thing. All right, tea time. Brought to you by, this Bengal spice is good stuff, folks. And so what I do now is I'm drinking that favor beyond measure, permeating the warmth of it, just radiating throughout my whole being. Yeah. So, all right, everyone ready to get the thinking caps on? Here we go. So let me pull up the talking points for today. All right, so we got to do the copyright disclaimer thing under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. And so we are complying with the fair use aspect. All right, so here's the question I'm asking you, those in the chat room, those who are watching and those who will be watching. Does age count for anything? Now, I know we're going to have the plenitudes of, the overused axioms, metaphors, allegories. But I'm asking you, does your age count for anything? Really, because you're going to end up worm food, at least your body is. So that's the question at hand. Most see old age from a mind of youth, not a mind of age. I mean, think about it. Those who are 40 in here, those that are 30, 20, those that are 50, 60, 70, 80. We each now view old age from a completely different reality. When we're 40, we see old age as something, yeah, we know about it, but it's never going to happen. I'm going to be like this all my life. And before you know it, 2 decades are gone. You're now 60. And if you go by the actuaries, most of people who are hearing my voice, you have 7 decades, darling. 7. Start counting them off. Because you're not going to get old. If you're like me, 63. I look in the mirror and I love myself because I'm a beautiful man. I have a beautiful spirit. And my spirit knows no age, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But the point is 63 old? Don't know. So here's the question then. If you can't come to a reasonable conclusion, let me help you. So what is the purpose of growing old? Is it to experience weakness in the body and mind? Is it to experience the loss of your eyesight? How about your hearing? How about you becoming lame, where you need something to assist you to even walk? Is it to lose your memories, that you don't even know who you are at the end? How about losing your teeth? Losing your loved ones, your family, or losing your friends? I mean, is that the purpose for growing old? Because that's the reality. It's the reality, folks. Most of it's already happening in many. So tell me again, what is so appealing about getting old? It's a question you got to answer. You're going to live it or you're going to be dead. So on the other side, does that mean getting older really counts for something? I mean, is there a prize? If you lose your memories, what the hell was the point? What was the purpose if you can't even remember? Do we think that there is this record keeper, that suddenly what has been lost because of the hippocampus is suddenly going to be brought back? Is that how it works? I mean, does it really mean anything of getting older? I mean, again, is there a benefit on the other side for growing to be old? I don't know. Is longevity a curse? I saw the comments earlier. Someone made reference to the story that was out over the weekend. Woman, I think 129. Said she's cursed by God. Can life so long in this body become a curse? Is that what happens to so many? Through whatever cause, maybe the spirit gets tired and just wants the hell out. And then you live to be 90, 100, 110. Your children are most likely dead. Your grandchildren are most likely dead. I mean, think about this. I mean, you want to live right now. If you're in your 40s, 30s, that's all you can think about is life every day. Because life is great. You're at your prime, your peak, your body's doing great. I know a lot of people, though, that are in our community, their bodies are broken. And so I ask, is the goal, is the prize longevity? Really? But if not, then when is old age? Can there be a spirit that in the teen years, the decade, become old? I mean, so is it a blessing? You know, one of the infamous scriptures I remember in the Old Testament is, with long life shall I bless him. I think long life would be great if it meant perpetual youth. At worst, perpetual midlife. I mean, by the time you're 40, you're starting to feel those little aches and pains. And they keep coming. Now, I think there's ways that you can change that. I know there are, but I digress. So, does age in this plane actually age the spirit or even the soul? Now, my contention is the spirit cannot age. The soul can. I believe the soul can die as well. Now, what does that leave the spirit? I think eventually the spirit will create another interface. Now, that's my belief. That's where I'm coming at. I don't think my spirit, it's why my spirit always sings. I'm singing all the time. And many times I'm giving praise to the Creator. But my soul was created when I came into this body. That's my belief. And according to Hermes, that's exactly what does in fact happen. Now, I believe the soul can age. Some people say, well, he's an old or she's an old soul. Well, maybe. Maybe that soul has hitched itself to a lot of different spirits. Maybe in many different incarnations. I think that that's a real possibility. I believe that the spirits move on. Maybe the energy of the soul is what remains behind. And within soul, we have the impression of personality, traits, unique characteristics. I don't know. So can a spirit age? Can a soul age? Don't know. Are the ones who die young more fortunate than those who live a long life? Now, you'll hear people, say, they died so young, had so much of a life in front of them. And I'm not making or disrespect of those emotions. Those are real, valid questions. But the question should be more, maybe that's all that spirit wanted. The soul, maybe not. I could see the addictiveness from a soulish point of view of why I'd want to come back through again and again and again. If it was for nothing else than the experience of youth again. Hell yeah, I'd pay a ticket. Well, if you go back through this time, you're going to have this, 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 this. Do I get to enjoy the youth again? Well, yeah. Where the hell do I sign? I mean, come on. That's valid. Sure, all of us would. My spirit says, nah, had enough of this. It's time to move on to the next plane. Now, if it means my soul and my spirit depart, see ya. That's my attitude. And what do the 7 principles have to do with this? Does Hermie have something to say about this as well, about this aging thing? This difference between spirit, mind, soul, body? We know what happens to the body. I mean, face it, folks, the food you eat, you're eating dead things. You're probably eating some dead tribe that lived here 100, 500 years ago. I mean, dust to dust. Can using magic make a difference in longevity? What if the soul made a deal with the spirit to enhance the experience? Have you ever heard the expression, their soul's been hijacked? As I've said many times, if a schizophrenic decides to commit suicide, isn't that a hostage situation? I mean, that's the real question we have to ask ourselves. Give me a second, please, as I get myself out of here. So, and I'm back. Yeah, this is class. I mean, what are we doing here? Is it just merely to exist day in and day out in the same damnable mental prison? I mean, I don't know about you. I don't like being where my spirit is suppressed. And I don't like it when my soul doesn't have an opportunity to soar. And my body's in for it. The body's all in for it. The body can heal itself. We've lost that knowledge. We're gaining it. So, valid questions, all of these. And I'm looking here into the chat room and see what's going on. And obviously, I'm walking in the middle of conversations that I have no idea what's being expressed. So I'll take that cue and kind of move on with that. And it looks like we are still live. So there we go. All right. So let's get into the reading on vibration. So this is, in fact, the 3rd principle, the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. The great 3rd Hermetic principle, the principle of vibration, embodies the truth that motion is manifested in everything in the universe, that nothing is at rest, that everything moves, vibrates, and circles. This Hermetic principle was recognized by some of the very early Greek philosophers who embodied it in their system. But then, for centuries, it was lost sight of by the thinkers outside of the Hermetic ranks. But in the 19th century, physical science rediscovered the truth, and the 20th century scientific discoveries have added additional proof of the correctness and truth of these century-old Hermetic doctrines. And that's what's happened for me, ladies and gentlemen. The decades of Bible study, the decades of studying other religions, even in business. You know, when you're in business, and particularly when you're heading for the C-level positions, there's a lot of training you go through. Many companies sent me 2-3 times a year to colleges, to specialized training sessions, seminars. You learn techniques, and as I look back, and I taught them, I taught sales. I look back now, I could have done better with the 7 principles than I did with the course, because the course embeds the 7 principles. That's why the favor invocation works. It's there. It doesn't violate any of the 7 principles. In fact, it's one of the most purest ways that you see the 7 principles intertwine with each other, one supporting the other. That's why favor is so powerful. So their Hermetic teachings are not only is everything in constant movement and vibration, but that the differences between the various manifestations of the universal power are due entirely to the varying rate and mode of vibrations. Not only this, but that even the all in itself manifests a constant vibration of such an infinite degree of intensity and rapid motion that it may be practically considered at rest. The teachers directing the attention of the students to the fact that even on the physical plane, a rapidly moving object, such as a revolving wheel, seems to be at rest. The teachings are to the effect that spirit is at one end of the pole of vibration, the other pole being certain extremely gross forms of matter. Between these 2 poles are millions upon millions of different rates and modes of vibration. One of the things I got out of Star Trek, the original Star Trek, was that when that came out in the late 60s, it was at a perfect age for me. I was 13, 14 years old, and already well into science. When I saw the transporter, it occurred to me that if you could vibrate a millisecond faster, you would phase out of this temporal plane. You would phase in based at that vibration into another phase of dimensional reality. Modern science has proven that all that we call matter and energy are but modes of vibratorial motion, and some of the more advanced scientists are rapidly moving towards the positions of the occultist, who hold that the phenomena of mind are likewise modes of vibration or motion. Let us see what science has to say regarding the question of vibrations in matter and energy. In the first place, science teaches that all matter manifests in some degree the vibrations arising from temperature or heat, be an object cold or hot, both being but degrees of the same things. It manifests certain heat vibrations, and in that sense is in motion and vibration. Then all particles of matter are in circular movement from corpuscles to suns. The planets revolve around suns, and many of them turn on their axis. The suns move around greater central points, and these are believed to move around still greater, and so on to ad infinitum. The molecules of which that particular kinds of matter are composed are in a state of constant vibration and movement around each other and against each other. The molecules are composed of atoms, which likewise are in a state of constant movement and vibration. The atoms are composed of corpuscles, sometimes called electrons, ions, etc., which also are in a state of rapid motion, revolving around each other, and which manifest a very rapid state and mode of vibration. And so we see that all forms of matter manifest vibration in accordance with the Hermetic principles of vibration. And folks, you ever watch a blacksmith, a farrier, a bladesmith work? Perfect example of what this is. And isn't it odd that this is so old in its writing that it had already defined the science that we didn't discover until the late 20th century, the atom? It was right there the whole time. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, I am, for Wayne Steiger, this is what I've been looking for. I rejoice to thee all, to all the gods, all those spirits that favor me. They have shown me great favor by bringing this light. And that's how I equate it. I am highly favored. I'm shown partiality amongst the spirits, the gods. And you need to think the same way. And so it is with the various forms of energy. Science teaches that light, heat, magnetism, and electricity are but forms of vibratorial motion connected in some way with and probably emanating from the ether. Wow. I could say something and it'd be vulgar, but it would be like blank Sherlock. Fill in the blank as you so care to. Science does not as yet attempt to explain the nature of the phenomena known as cohesion. Now, how many of you read the book Edidorfa? Aphrodite spelled backwards. That's what that book taught. It's what gravity is. It's cohesion. And we're going to get into the Hermetics, how Hermes showed this thousands and thousands of years ago, which is the principle of molecule attraction, nor chemical affinity, which is the principle of atomic attraction, nor gravitation, the greatest mystery of the three, which is the principle of attraction by which every particle or mass of matter is bound to every other particle or mass. These three forms of energy are not as yet understood by science, yet the writers incline to the opinion that these two are manifestations of some form of vibratorial energy, in fact, which the Hermeticists have held and taught for ages past. Man, talk about common sense. The universal ether, which is postulated by science, without its nature being understood clearly, is held by the Hermeticists to be but a higher manifestation of that which is erroneously called matter. That is to say, matter at a higher degree of vibration, and is called by them the ethereal substance. The Hermeticists teach that this ethereal substance is of extreme tenuity and elasticity, and pervades universal space, serving as a medium of transmission of waves of vibratorial energy, such as heat, light, electricity, magnetism, etc. The teachings are that the ethereal substance is a connecting link between the forms, of vibratorial energy known as matter. On the hand, an energy of force, on the other, and also that it manifests a degree of vibration in rate and mode entirely of its own. Kind of explains everything, doesn't it? If you and I have thought, it's vibrating. We know that. It has a frequency. It can be measured. That's what tells me here alone why there's an afterlife. Now, why Hawkins never saw it, I don't know. I don't know. But for me, it's as clear as, the handwriting on the walls. And that they said something like that. Scientists have offered the illustration of a rapidly moving wheel, top or cylinder, to show the effects of increasing rates of vibration. The illustration supposes a wheel, top, or revolving cylinder running at low rate of speed. We will call this revolving thing the object. In following out the illustration, let us suppose the object moving slowly. It may be seen readily, but no sound of its movement reaches the ear. The speed is gradually increased. In a few moments, its movements begin so rapid that a deep growl or low note may be heard. Then, as the rate is increased, the note rises one in the musical scale, the chromatic scale. Then, the motion being still further increased, the next highest note is indistinguishable. Then, one after another, all the notes of the musical scale appear, rising higher and higher as the motion is increased. Finally, when the motions have reached a certain rate, of final note perceptible to human ears is reached, and the piercing shriek dies away, and silence follows. No sound is heard from the revolving object, the rate of motion being so high that the human ear cannot register the vibrations. Then comes the perception of rising degrees of heat. Then, after quite a time, the eye catches a glimpse of the object becoming a dull, dark, reddish color. As the rate increases, the red becomes brighter. Then as the speed is increased, the red melts into an orange, and then the orange melts into a yellow. Then follow successively the shades of green, blue, indigo, and finally violet as the rate of speed increases. Then the violet shades away and all color disappears, the human eye not being able to register them. But there are invisible rays emanating from the revolving object, the rays that are used in photographing and other subtle rays of light. Then begin to manifest that particular rays known as X-rays. As the constitution of the objects change, electricity and magnetism are emitted when the appropriate rate of vibration is obtained. When the object reaches a certain rate of vibrations, its molecules disintegrate and resolve themselves into the original elements or atoms. Then the atoms, following the principle of vibration, are separated into countless corpuscles of which they are composed. And finally, even the corpuscles disappear, and the object may be said to be composed of the ethereal substance. Science does not dare to follow the illustration further, but the Hermeticist teaches that if the vibration be continually increased, the object would mount up the successive states of manifestation and would in turn manifest the various mental stages and then on spiritward until it would finally re-enter the all, which is absolute spirit. The object, however, would have ceased to be an object long before the stage of ethereal substance was reached. But otherwise, the illustration is correct, inasmuch as to show the effect of constantly increased rates and modes of vibration. It must be remembered in the above illustration that at the stages at which the object throws off vibrations of light, heat, etc., it is not actually resolved into those forms of energy, which are much higher in the scale, but simply that it reaches a degree of vibration in which those forms of energy are liberated in a degree from the confining influences of its molecules, atoms, and corpuscles, as the case may be. These forms of energy, although much higher in the scale than matter, are imprisoned and confined in the material combinations by reason of the energies manifesting through and using material forms. There's your secret for what the spirit realm is wanting, folks, right there. Just giving you some cliff notes here. But thus becoming entangled and confined in their creations of material forms, which to an extent is true of all creations, the creating force becoming involved in its creation. You're a creator. Your life circumstances are a result of your creation. Are you getting that? But the Hermetic teachings go further than do those of modern science. They teach that all manifestation of thought, emotion, reason, will, or desire, or any mental state or condition are accompanied by vibrations, a portion of which are thrown off, and which tend to affect the minds of other persons by induction. This is the principle which produces the phenomenon of telepathy, mental influence, and other forms of action and power of mind over mind, with which the general public is rapidly becoming acquainted, owing to the wide dissemination of occult knowledge by various schools, cults, and teachers along these lines at this time. Every thought, emotion, or mental state has its corresponding rate and mode of vibration, and by an effort of the will of the person or of other persons, these mental states may be reproduced, just as a musical tone may be reproduced by causing an instrument to vibrate at a certain rate. Just as color may be reproduced in the same way. By a knowledge of the principle of vibration as applied to mental phenomena, one may polarize his mind at any degree he wishes, thus gaining a perfect control over his mental states, moods, etc. In the same way, he may affect the minds of others, producing the desired mental states in them. 5G, folks, hello. In short, he may be able to produce on the mental plane that which science produces on the physical plane, namely vibrations at will. This power, of course, may be acquired only by the proper instruction, exercise, practice, etc. The science being that of mental transmutation, one of the branches of the Hermetic art. A little reflection on what we have said will show the student that the principle of vibration underlies the wonderful phenomenon of the power manifested by the masters and adepts who are able to apparently set aside the laws of nature, but who, in reality, are simply using one law against another, one principle against another, and who accomplished their results by changing the vibrations of material objects or forms of energy, and thus perform what are commonly called miracles. As one of the old Hermetic writers has truly said, He who understands the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power. We're going to stop right there, folks. Is this exciting stuff? Do with it as you will. But to those who do well with it, well you shall be. I think it answered a lot of the questions that have come into me that many of you are writing. Your thoughts, and I know we're going over a little bit, but your thoughts, you create a vibration. Only you can change that vibration. You can be influenced by other stronger vibrations, but if you're an initiate and you're going along with these readings and learning, secrets are being revealed to you. You can change a complete auditorium. The vibration, I need to phrase this correctly. Many meditate seeking a vibration, not realizing they've never altered their vibration at all. And vibration is mental. Vibration is being able to focus in on one thought, one incantation, one invocation at such an intensity and level that the vibrations emanate out to accomplish the thought. Let me give it in a very gross manner. Murder, harm to another person, is the extreme of the vibration we're talking about. It's that same intensity. How many of you have been so angry that you've lost control? That's a vibration. You set that vibration, and look what it did. Most people struggle trying to get it back to the opposite side. And the only way you can do this is to begin to train yourself through your mind, not your spirit. Your spirit already knows. It's waiting for you to catch up. Remember, most of our spirits have been so pushed far back or suppressed through religion ideology or other type of suppressing doctrines that most people really don't know what it means to be free in their spirits. They struggle with this. And that's where we get the conflicts. Shannon, it is a work in progress for all of us, my dear. It is. And you just learn. I'll teach you a little trick. It's not a trick. It's an exercise. So the minute, you see, that's why I don't listen to the news. That's why my house is quiet. There's nothing on in my house. It's complete silence. Why? I can't take the vibration emanating from that black mirror device anymore. I can feel it. At times, I can freaking almost see it. And so for myself, I had to begin to completely make silence a prerequisite for my day. But even now, when I do task, thoughts will enter in. And now I'm catching it. I immediately change their vibration because they come with a package. You open up that thought and it's going to give a vibration off to it. That's how it works. All right, folks, been fun. I hope you've learned something. Definitely covering some deep spots. And wow, yeah. And I'm going to tell you something as well. For those of you who are following the path of initiation through this, the spirits are going to start talking to you. Yeah, Donna, I know. You know, and Donna, you're not alone. Listen, a lot of us called wrath down on those that we called reprobates, sinners. You know, it's the old adage: if you're not using it, somebody is. And so that's what we have to remember, that we're becoming masters here, and we cover heavy topics. And it's never going to make the 100,000 view mark on YouTube, but I don't care. If this is designed for a small select group, far out. I mean, I'm all for it. And so that's where we're going. All right, folks, I will see you tomorrow at the same time. Be good to yourselves. Learn to love yourselves. Seriously. Once you start loving, because here again, you're changing the vibration. Love is a vibration. It's more than a word. It's a frequency. It is a transmuter. There are words that transmutate our energies, either be positive or negative. And so by loving yourself, you begin to change the base vibration. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. All right, folks, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Be good to yourself. And let me just invoke another favor blessing. I think I'm just going to start doing this. I just want to invoke upon favor, particularly those who are struggling mentally. I just speak quietness to your mind and allow the favor that surpasses all understanding to begin to permeate every thought, every neuron, every somatic pathway, and that the understanding will come forth. All right? So there we go. Take it, embrace it, and use it. All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.